Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I am your host, Jason Enrique. I am back, baby. I'm back from a break. I want to shout out everybody for checking out the episodes and and the rest of the show. I was on a break for the month of March. Needed the break. Breaks are necessary, but we are back here, ladies and gentlemen. And we have another First Class guest up in the building today. But before we continue, I want to remind everybody that we are live in Bravery Studios in Garfield, New Jersey. Shout out to Najee Beyond the Glass. What's going on, Najee? How you been, man? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as I said, it was much needed break off. I needed it for the month of March. There was a lot going on in my personal life and everything, and I just wanted to be, if I could be transparent with you guys, I just felt like I was going gung-ho with the show and everything because I felt like I had something to prove and everything, but now I'm at a place right now where, you know what, I don't have anything to prove. I've done it as much as I can. I've been staying consistent, but I feel like I couldn't do it without the love and support from you guys, so first and foremost, thank you for that. And I've just been doing a bunch of other projects as well. Anybody that knows me knows that I've been doing the voice acting thing, I've been doing the acting thing, a little bit of directing and writing on the side, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. But in my journey of doing this, I've got to know this gentleman that we got sitting here right now, and we also have a project to promote, and we'll get into all of that. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Alonzo Herran is in the building. What is going on, Alonzo?
Hey, it's good to be here, man.
Yeah, man. This has been a long time in the making. We've known each other for quite some time now, but we never really got a chance to really work together. Like, we kind of knew each other in the same circles and here and there.
Come across each other in passes, different events and stuff like
exactly,
that.
Exactly. And then finally, you started working on a new project now that we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what I did right in this life, but you decided to just hit me up one day and like, you know what? I think this guy could work out for this particular small role that we got in here. Let me just give him a shot. And I had a lot of fun, and it was a blast working with everybody involved.
I appreciate that.
So, but first and foremost, let's get into you, Mr. Alonzo. So, the name, the project that you got coming out is King of Newark 3. So let's kind of start there. It's pretty much self-explanatory that you hail from Newark, New Jersey.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So like you were born and raised there. What was your experience like growing up personally in Newark, New Jersey?
I come from like the Newark Housing Authority. Grew up in the projects. Then when the projects building started to close down in '89, we moved over to the south ward of Newark, to the north side, where it was more Hispanics and it was more Caucasian area during that time in the late '89, to a place called Stephen Crane Village, and pretty much I lived up there until like high school, and then my father saved up enough money and we moved out of Newark to Springfield for some years.
Okay. Now, you know what the interesting thing about Newark, or even just Jersey in general, is that it is, to some, the most diverse state in the entire country. And I think that also applies to the towns that we have here in the state of New Jersey. Because when you say you grew up in the projects in Newark, but Newark is actually a very diverse city. I mean, you got Ironbound, where all the Portuguese people are there. You know, you said that there's like some of the higher up neighborhoods, like upper class, and then also you have the downtown area, and the New Jersey Devils play there. So it's a real big melting pot of Newark, but it seems like the focus seems to be on the urban side of the town for the most part.
Well, yeah. Now, I mean, times has changed. Times changed from then. There was a time where Newark wasn't urban so much. In certain wards, like the South Ward, they used to have a lot of. It was a big Jewish community at one time there. Okay. And then they wound up moving out, and then some urban blacks wound up living in those high-rise buildings, and then now the diversity is that we getting more, in the number streets where a lot of blacks was. There's a lot of Caucasians, there's a lot of Hispanics moving over here from New York and navigating from all different types of cities. So it's changing high now. A lot of New Yorkers are definitely coming back to Newark because it's cheaper for them to live over here now.
Right. And one of the things that always fascinated me, because like this is actually nothing to people from Newark, but there's people that live outside of Newark, right? And people that live outside of Jersey. They always, I noticed that some people seem to be fascinated with the way that you guys pronounce the city. Like when you spell it out, when you hyphenate it out, it's Newark, but the way that you guys pronounce it is Newark.
You know what? I never really jumped into any of those conversations. I always see it. I see people say Newark.
Right.
And we used to just say Newark because, but everyone has their way of touching it and tweaking it and what sound to them. So to me, it was always just Newark. You know, at one time it wasn't even Newark. People would just say Brick City.
Yeah, but shout out to Redman. I mean, that's where I learned it from.
So. So basically that was the whole big nobody wouldn't even say Newark. They say I'm from the bricks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm from Brick City.
Yep.
You know, I remember growing up just being out on the street. Oh, where you live at? I'm from Brick City, and people knew that was Newark.
Yep.
So now is this Newark and New York? I mean, it's just different ways people just saying it, and some people can't say Newark.
Right, but you know what? Also, I feel like Newark underratedly has a lot of great talent, even still to this day. But we have some legends. Like, I'll give you an example. My favorite movie of all time is Goodfellas, and two of the people that are in that movie are from Newark. You got Joe Pesci and you got Ray Liotta, both Newark, New Jersey guys. Fantastic performances. Joe Pesci won the Oscar for that performance as well. Yeah. So there seems to be an abundance of people that are from Newark, like that have made it successful, whether in the arts or in sports and so on and so forth. But you don't necessarily hear about them too much because of the fact of the Jersey stigma, where we just, you attach Jersey just period to the name, and it kind of gets swept under the rug, or we're kind of like living in the shadows of New York City.
Well, that's one of my biggest fights, and been my fights for years, and actually about to really try to after next week, I'm really going to embrace that and take that, because I always felt like Newark, New Jersey always was overlooked. Like you said, we have big names, guy. We have Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
Mm-hmm. John Travolta's from
John
Inglewood.
Travolta. You got and everybody now. Even now, we got so many people that move here. Mm-hmm. We got Whoopi Goldberg, West Orange. You know, you got a lot of people living in Edgewater.
Chris Rock, I saw Fort Lee at a restaurant.
Ice-T, Edgewater. So we have a lot of celebrities here, but we just get overlooked. And the biggest fight of all is that there's a lot of people, a lot of motion pictures, there's a lot of concerts, there's a lot of things happening with people coming into our city, but our city is not being brought to the table with things.
Right.
It was funny, I was watching a post yesterday, and the artist was showing that this year, for the first time, Summer Jam is going to be hosted at the Prudential Center.
That's right, yep. Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, nobody opened up the doors of giving the Jersey artists, that's the upcoming artists, the ones, the next Redman, the next Queen Latifah,
the next Fetty Wap,
next Fetty Wap, to give them a platform to open up for them big artists.
Right.
But sometimes I blame the powers that be, because the ones that's made it, that claim they still here, they should be scouting that talent. They should be doing things in the community.
You would think.
I would think, because I still do.
Exactly.
And, that's my passion. Right. Actually, that's my calling, because I felt like my story is where that my legacy to leave someone is that no matter where you come from, what household you come from, you lived in the projects or you lived in a house in Livingston, at the end of the day, you have a choice and you can pursue your dreams, even when your parents and everyone else tell you can't.
Yeah. Now, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, you were the first person that I've ever had on my show, and this is 172 episodes right now. I think you were the first person that I've ever had that has been in law enforcement. Okay. So when, tell me about that journey. Like, how did that start, and what made you wanting to get into law enforcement before you delved into your actual passion, which is film right now?
Well, everything that I've done in my life, it was never planned. It just happened. I was that teenager that, when people was going around saying they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a doctor, I didn't know. I remember my father asking me that at 17 years old, and he was like, what is it that you want to do? And I said, I don't know. I knew that I wanted to be wealthy. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I knew I wanted to have a child at an early age, because I was young with my father. We was physically able to do things with each other. And I honestly said I wanted to be married early. But I never had a plan. So, when I turned 18, I had got registered for college. And my father wanted me to go to school right away. He was like, I graduated in June. He was like, you need to be in some summer classes. But I had registered for fall, because I was like, school wasn't easy for me.
Right.
And every year I was always in summer school. So this was the first time I graduated. I wanted to enjoy my summer, but my father said, no, you're not going to be in this household. I think you're just going to be chilling without doing anything. So I wound up moving out. And I moved out. I left Springfield, New Jersey, went back down to Newark. And I wound up getting an apartment with a friend of mine at the time. And we were just living life, skating, partying, chilling with girls. And And it was just like, it was ongoing every day. Wake up, really not knowing what you're doing, just, just living in the world. But I got bored with that pretty early. I was just like, just like, this ain't for me. Like, at some point, like, I never wanted to be broke. So I'm like, you got to do something. And I remember a good friend of mine who I went to high school with, and his father was into politics. And it was election year, and he came to me and my friend, and he said, listen, if you work on this campaign, once the mayor get elected, I get you a city job. And I was there. I gave it a chance, and I was out there knocking on doors, getting people to sign petitions, and trying to get people to the ballot to vote. And Sharp James got reelected that year, and I had my first job as an inspector for the city.
Okay.
So I did that for about 3 years, and then I met this guy who came home from jail. And I was also throwing parties. That's how I was real popular in high school. So I used to throw parties. That's how I used to make the money where my father wasn't going to keep buying my sneakers or the jeans that I wanted. So I was throwing parties, renting out spots, so making a little money there. I hustled everything. My father had an ice cream store in Belleville. I used to steal candy from there, go to school, sell bags of fish and stuff. So this guy came home from jail, and this lady said, I want you to meet this guy because y'all both in a promotion. He's in the entertainment world. And I met him, and he pretty much told me that, listen, he had a bunch of money, that if I wanted to team up with him, we could book clubs, we could book artists. And he was like, you ain't got to put out your money no more. So I was like, sound good. Sound real good. So I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. So I remember I locked down this place called Brokers. Back in the day, it was a popular club.
Okay.
And I brought this DJ Quad, to the meeting. And I was like, we're going to book you. We're going to do this. And he knew the guy. Because the guy was older than me. And after the meeting, we went downstairs, and Quad said, look, Lonzo, I know you. I know your family. But I know him. He said, I don't think you should do business with the guy. And I said, why? Because at that time, I was a little hot-headed, cocky. And he was like, because he don't play with his money. I said, I don't do bad business, so we shouldn't have a problem. So he was like, anyway, so we wound up doing the party. And I remember that weekend of the party, my mother got sick. I had to go down to Virginia. And I called him like, yo, come get this ticket money. Let's talk about this, because I'm not going to be here. Make sure everybody squared up when I get back. And he was just home, so he was catching up, his little rendezvous, just catching up, living his life. So he was like, yo, we get together when you get back. And when I got back that day, on that Sunday, we met up that Monday, and he was talking to me. And when I turned my head, because my background is karate and martial arts, I felt something, and when I turned, he tried to swing and hit me.
Wow.
And I was in the car, so I kicked the door, and I kicked him with the door. And everybody that was out there in the projects came and broke us up. And it was like, yo, you can't do that to him out here. And it was like, because I was from out there. I was from where we at. And people was like, yo, how you know him? I was like, I met him through this. And kind of find out this guy was a big-time gangster guy. So, we kind of got into some words, and then I went home. The next day he called me. We wound up meeting up again because I was like, ain't nobody scared of you. You could get it just like I could get it. Yeah. But we wound up talking, and he was like, I look at you as a big brother. Somebody was scaffolding tickets outside the club, and he thought the tickets I had, those tickets were sold. So I told him, I said, bro, I've always been about my money. I don't need to do that. And ever since then, we became like a big brother to me, a big mentor. Okay. And he told me, he said, like, I see something in you that you don't need to be in this lifestyle. He was like, you meant for something else. And about a month later, he got killed. He got murdered. And I reflected the day he got murdered and he died, that he kept saying he saw something in me. And that's what made me to go take the test to be a cop. And
now, one of the things that we hear a lot, for lack of a better term, is the stigma when it comes to, celebrities or even just people that grew up in the hood and the projects and all that kind of stuff, where there's a sense of, because of where they grew up and where they are in some of the most dangerous places in America, that a lot of them tend to have that mentality that they'll be lucky if they'll make it to age 21 or even 20. Did you ever feel that way personally yourself?
It's funny, and I was just talking about that. Yes, we was talking about that at our last network, because a couple of my friends that I call friends, because I don't call everybody a friend, and he came up and showed me some support, and it's funny because I said to him, I said, what age did you think you was going to live to? And he was like, I saw myself living to about 18, 19, 20, around that age. And I said, I didn't see myself living past 21 either. And people ask that, and it's like, because I remember I lost one of my close friends when I was like 15 years old. So it was like people was just dropping. I had another close friend of mine. He got killed. So it was like living in that world, you don't know what's going to happen. And that's when things start changing in the 90s. People beefing over each other, territory for petty stuff.
Right.
And so you don't, because you living out here. Like, I had never had a desire to leave Jersey either or leave Newark. But when this is what you're seeing, you kind of think, this is the only thing that's for me out here.
That kind of probably explains why when you were younger and your father asked you, what did you want to do? You never had that thought process because you didn't think that far ahead about your future anyway.
Yeah, just living, just waking up, living, getting by, living day to day, not really planning for the future. That didn't come into play to when I remember when I was, a little bit when I got older. I think I had went away, and a friend of mine, we was away, and we was like, wow, we not controlled by our parents. We making money. And I was just like, this is what it's about. This is what it's about, why you should work hard, and you could go on trips and go see the world. You go see different people, different states, where we walking around, me mugging each other, when other states, they say, hey, how you doing? Good morning. And you like,
it's a community, yeah.
It's like but some people reaction like that. Why are you speaking to me? Because that's the right thing to do. You know what you could do? You know what good morning or hello could do to someone?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, we walk around here, and I remember, you go to these parties, you go out to these outings, somebody looking at you like you want to kill you. Like, like you done something to them and you don't even know them. Because it's the environment that you're around. Like, you feel like your back is up against the wall all the time, and it don't have to be that way.
Yeah, and I never grew up in that world. I'm not from the hood or anything like that. I didn't grow up on the streets, so I don't know anything about that world. But it's like I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what the answers are or anything like that. But I guess from the outside looking in, it just kind of makes other people of a different ilk that wonder, like, how can people be, programmed, for lack of a better term, to think that way? But me never even growing up in that environment, I don't have the answers.
True.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't open my eyes till when I went to like my sophomore year when we moved to Springfield. Now I'm going to school with, a lot of Asian and Italian and, Jewish kids. So
was that a huge culture shock for you?
It was a big culture shock because the stuff that I saw in the movies, the old movies I used to watch, Animal House and stuff like that, the house parties and the girls, they drinking and they getting ripped up off the, like you like, this is the lifestyle you want to be a part of. Just like in today's sense, they want to be a part of your world. Like I used to get the guys, the rich, take me down to Newark. Take me down there. I want to go get some weed to get some coke or something like that.
Right.
I learned more about drugs moving out of Newark than I was in Newark.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. The ecstasy, the tabs, Special K, the shrooms, all that stuff came living out in Springfield. They used to sneak over to Limelight back in the day. And I'm like, wow. People, when they couldn't find drugs, we used to go to Quick Check.
Yeah,
we used to get pills of Vibrant, put it on. It was big, man. It's a big culture shock, to the point that, honestly, I didn't even experience racism till I moved up there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's because, like I said, I didn't grow up in the hood, but like I kind of grew up in a town where I was like right dead in the middle. Like so It was in Hawthorne. So
Okay.
you got
I know what
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne is.
Yeah. You got Patterson on one side, and then you got Ridgewood and Midland Park on the other side.
Yeah.
So I felt like me growing up in that area, I got to see the best of both worlds, because I did spend time in Patterson because, you know, my father did live on Emerson for a little bit, and he also had a bar in downtown Patterson, right across the street from City Hall. It was Cold Street Cafe. That was his spot back in the day. Rest in peace to Pops. And then I had my best friend, still my best friend to this day, that grew up in Midland Park. So I feel like growing around that area, I feel like I got the best of both worlds, and I was able to really, connect, for lack of a better term, with other people from both worlds, even though I don't belong in necessarily every world. But I think growing up with that kind of mindset, it made me realize that the world is much bigger than what we live in right now, and like it's up to us to try to see more of it if possible.
That's true, and it made me a better person. It helped me become the man that I am. Like, you know, now when I really did step out to the world, I was able, you know, as I grew in business, you know, I had dealt with a lot of, you know, Jewish investors. So I knew their holidays because we celebrated up there.
Sure, yeah.
You know, I was able, you know, I could talk to them about stuff. And, you know, some people just stuck in that urban world. They don't know they get stuck to where they only carry their way a certain way. And I tell my people all the time, and everybody, that we are always going to be judged by the way we look. Your appearance means a lot of things.
Yeah, and it didn't matter if you had a badge or not back then.
No, not at all. I mean, and that was one of the things the guy told me. He said, you know, because growing up in that urban hood area, becoming a cop was a bad thing.
Yeah, it was a stigma.
Like, you don't want to be a pig. You want to be the
5-0, you know.
5-0,
yeah.
you know. But you know what? It took two good brothers, two strong brothers that was out there. He said, Alonzo, there's nothing wrong with being a cop. Trust and believe. And most of them didn't have a record, they would have became a cop.
Right.
It's because their jacket is messed up. That's why they're not a cop. And he said, be a cop. Just don't let it change you.
Right. And I think what kind of gets lost in is that when you have like these movies and this music now that kind of glorifies going against police and not trying to go into that trajectory. Like, even if you ever thought of even going to apply at the police academy, then automatically you're one of those negative terminologies that we were just mentioning right now.
True, yeah.
Yeah, but I just think that it was glorified in like movies and TV and stuff like that. But in actuality, you shouldn't really shame anybody for doing what they want to do. And,
no, not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just like when people have opinion about who you dating or who you with. Listen, I could say anything I want to say about your woman, your man, but you know what? If that person makes you happy in your household, then don't forget what everybody else said, because that's what really counts.
Yeah.
And what goes on, how that person makes me feel when I'm with them.
Right.
You know, you're not with me 24/7. You're not my backbone. So we always have you're entitled to your opinion. I think we all are, but we can't be downplaying because this is what you wanted to do. And only you know that. Like I said, I knew for me, partying every day, sleeping with all these different girls, waking up doing nothing every day, that became boring to me.
It was counterproductive.
It's not productive.
Right.
You know, I knew that my life was meant for something more than that.
Right.
And, you know, like I said, I'm not knocking my friends for wanting, that's what they wanted, but I knew I had to change within myself.
Right.
Because I felt like I'm here for a higher calling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I get that sense also. Now, how long were you in law enforcement for?
I did 20 years.
All right. So you did 20 years and then you retire.
Yeah, I retired in 2018. Yeah.
2018. All right. So you were a cop for 20 years, and then you go off into the realm of filmmaking. So I think the transition there.
No, that happened while I was a cop.
Okay, but I think that the transition is still unique in itself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, before I got a chance to really know about who you are as a person, I was under the impression that, you know, maybe this is something that you had a passion when you were a kid, like maybe you wanted to be in movies or make movies or anything like that.
I love movies. I was always a movie kid. Like,
right. So was I. That was like my getaway.
Yeah, like on the weekends, see, and it was like my weekends, like growing up, my grandmother, she used to, she was like the blockbuster of the projects.
I love that.
They had like 2 VCRs, and she was recording like one movie VH1, and we had like she had boxes of movies, and she numbered them.
Yeah, we did that too.
People would come to the house and rent from her. So on the weekends, I used to just watch a lot of old classics. Like I grew up watching all different types of movies, comedy, police academies, you know, movies. I used to watch all of that stuff, and I just love movies. I just love, you know, it was good storytelling. And,
so what was it that made you want to go into a foray into making that a career for yourself?
It didn't happen to I say about 2010. I had met this guy, and he had did an independent film, and he had a couple like upcoming artists, Tretch and the Tory from Power. He had them all in his movie, and pretty much he was like, you know, he was telling me that he wanted me to invest into his next project. Okay. And I was like, well, I didn't like the way it looked, but I was like, oh, maybe we could talk about it. So I wound up writing a book, and that's when I wrote this book called Living with No Regrets, and it was basically about 4 guys coming from Newark that didn't want to be a statistic, and after we started selling the book, and the book was getting some noise, I said, and I told the guy, if I'm going to invest in a movie, I'm going to do my own movie. I felt it was more of just an accomplishment. Yeah. It was like I wrote a book. Maybe I could do a movie, and I could say this.
You wanted to give yourself a challenge.
Yeah, I wanted to give myself a challenge. But when I did the first film, from taking the idea to a script and bringing it to life, I fell in love with doing it. It was like the whole process it's stressful, but you know, to see a project that's completed, that you was able to give other people opportunities from your city, you filter some of the places that you grew up at. Right. It was just like it was remarkable. So I wound up just continuing it. I just kept jumping in, and you know, you meet other people, you network, you get to meet different celebrities. I started meeting other people. So I was like, I like doing this. I like doing it. I felt like I was doing something good for the community.
See, this is why I love stories like that, because it kind of, like, I'll give you an example on my part. Like, I've told this story plenty of times, but I'll just give you the condensed version. So I started this podcast in 2021. Okay. Never in my wildest dreams, like maybe a couple of months before I did the podcast, did I ever think that this is something that I was ever going to do. But I've kind of fell into it because I always wanted to be in the radio business, and it just didn't work out. And then I got into this, and now I've been doing it for 3 years, almost 4. And the entire journey from episode 1 to now has been exponentially unexpected in a good way. Like, I never thought that I would get to meet people, that I would get a chance to meet, this, that, and the third. And it was all through my perseverance and hard work and staying consistent. Absolutely, yeah. So that was something that I was not expecting. But what I love about that is that it's never too late to do anything. Like, exactly. All right, you did 20 years in law enforcement, and then you pivoted to something else. Whereas people think that there's this thing where like, I feel like I'm too old to be doing something like that. No, you can't. You can't think that way. You know, like especially since like I'm gonna be 39 in exactly 1 month from now, and I can't have that mentality of like, it's a little too late for me to try to do a film or anything like that. No, I'm in the process of actually writing my first short film right now, and I'm not having that mentality where like, you know, I'm not in my 20s anymore, I guess the time has passed me. No, I'm still relatively young. You know, I'm not anywhere near the senior citizen age. I still got a lot of time, and so does everybody else around my age range. So adulting is ghetto for sure. I hate paying bills and shit like that. But at the same time, I'm still relatively young, and I still have plenty of time in the world, God willing, to do the things that I want to do. And when people come up to me and say that they have been inspired by what I do as far as like podcasting or anything else I do, I'm like, not only do I appreciate it, but I'm not a person that has anything really to prove, but what I would like to be is an example. I want to show people that a self-deprecating guy like me, who doesn't always think too highly of himself, if somebody like me can do it, then anybody else can do it. Absolutely. So the sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned.
And if you could pass that buck to someone else and see someone else help their dreams and take off their dreams, then you felt like you could pat yourself on the back and say, I did it. I did something. You know, and it's not an age thing. It's timing. Mm-hmm. Because you got a lot of people that's racing at an early age trying to get to that goal they want, and they don't get there. Mm-hmm. Then you got some that the time it wasn't there, 15, 20 years later, this is your time.
Right.
And they might think they too old, but you never know. And as long as you waking up and you physically can move and do something, you could be creative at any age.
Absolutely. I know people in their late 40s that are achieving their dreams now.
Listen, it was times that I had doubts and wanted to give up, and even now I haven't made it. But and people tell me repeatedly, well, Steven Spielberg didn't take off till he did his 10th film. Mm-hmm. So you got to just have hope, and you got to believe in yourself and push yourself, because if you let social media or you let comments or what someone got to say about you get to you, you won't manage to get anywhere.
Right, and I think that one of the things that get lost, because I've been reading this book recently. It's by Marcus Aurelius, Meditations, and there's something in there that I loved reading about, where when you're doing something in life and something that you're passionate about, you should do what you should focus on is the progress and the journey, not the result of what it's going to be like. So you have a couple of films in your belt. I take it from you that you are a big reason why you've been able to stay consistent in doing what you're doing and keep on putting out these projects is because you're enjoying the process. You enjoy the filmmaking part. You enjoy doing the whole journey part. You're not so much focused on the result. I mean, you care about the result, but you're not. I don't get the sense from you that you're just making a movie because you want people to be proud of you. And there's tons of people out there in a lot of creative ways that they try to do something, but they only care about the end result. And if you have that kind of mentality, then you're not going to stay consistent. You're not going to go very far. And your train is off the track as far as I'm concerned, because you're in it for all the wrong reasons. Like the simplest terms that I could put it on is that if you want to be a musician because you want to be a millionaire, then you shouldn't be a musician in the first place, because a real artist would do it for the love of the art and for love of music, not so much that they look at it as a lottery ticket.
True. Yeah, you're right. And like people always say that I want to be rich. I want to be rich. One of my friends told me, I don't want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. I just want to be able to maintain. No, that's what he said. I just want to be able to maintain the lifestyle I live, to be able to pay my bills and not struggle. But when a lot of people do it for money. A lot of people say, like even actors, they don't know the script. Nope. They don't know the character. How much you paying me? If you're doing this for money, then you shouldn't be doing it, because you might not see the money right away.
No.
You got to do it because you want to develop your craft. You want to step it up, and then the money come to you. If you that good, trust me, people will watch you in this movie, and they will say, you know what? Because that's how I was discovering talent. I was watching bad movies, but I discovered that one talent that was good in there.
Sure, yeah. How many, do you know how much films that you have under your belt specifically right now?
This King 3 would be my 11th movie.
Okay. So the reason that I ask you that, and so you have 11 projects, so you basically just proved my point right there. You have been doing this kind of like as a challenge for yourself. Like, all right, you got this one project done. It was a lot of fun. Okay, now let me see what else I can do. And you are enjoying the journey. You keep doing this. And like, you just did your 11th film right now. Now you got to work on 12, 13, 14, 15, and but I see that drive in you, and it's really wonderful to see, especially coming, where you came from and what the odds were stacked up against you, even the odds that are stacked up against you still to this day. Absolutely. But I also say that you're on your 11th project, but even though you may be a professional in most people's eyes, I think that you also have the mentality of a student. Like, even though you're on your 11th film right now, you're still always thinking like a student. Like, you always feel like you could learn something new to keep on going to more and more projects.
And you can. And every project, I think I got better. I had to step up my craft and do some research. And that's why I try to tell people, cameramen and people, even actors, you don't think because you had one acting class, like you don't need it no more. You gotta keep coaching yourself. You learn different things. You learn as different cameras coming out, so you gotta learn the settings on that. You got different angles you gotta watch. That's why I don't take a title unless I'm ready to say I earned that title. A lot of people go around, I'm a director. Are you a director? Right? Do it. Give me a storyboard. Give me a shot list. Don't call yourself a director.
Right.
Be a producer.
And how much of a learning process was that for you in the beginning?
This is my 11th project. I didn't start directing until I directed this project here. Because that's when I felt I was comfortable to say I'm ready to take on a director's role.
Now, I don't want to, I don't want you to call yourself out or anything like that, but I feel like even the greatest artists or the greatest people that do something creative have a project that maybe they feel like, man, maybe it wasn't the greatest. Now, I don't know if you feel that way, but has there ever been a project that you worked on that maybe you weren't too happy with the result, but you also took it as a learning lesson to make sure that you didn't go back to that?
All of them.
Okay.
Every last one of them. I look back at all my movies. I know me. I am my worst critic.
Okay.
And I go back and I say, we should have did this. I shouldn't have did it that way. I don't like the way that, maybe if I was acted in that movie, I didn't like the way I did that scene. I just think that's a director's eye. Maybe that's just a producer's eye, or just being a filmmaker.
Do you think that maybe you being a perfectionist could be a little bit of a detriment sometimes?
I'm hard on myself, but then sometimes I lighten up. But from knowing this, I think the biggest thing in this film business is, one, it's oversaturated. So it's a lot of competition out here.
Oh, believe me, I'm a podcaster. We're in the most oversaturated market in the entire world right now.
So you have to be like, what's the difference from listening to you to listening to somebody else station? So it's like, one, you're in a competitive business, is oversaturated, and doors get slammed in your face all the time. Just imagine you sending it to, you get your first movie and you send it to Showtime. They decline it. They pass. They say either there's a go or there's a pass. HBO, they pass on it. And this is something that you don't put your heart, money, your time in, and it might be good for the people around you that see it. Oh, good movie, but it's not good enough for you to get picked up, or a license deal, or a theatrical deal. So you're talking about 10 movies, or I'll say 7 movies that and then you got those that the powers that be that could walk in somewhere, because a lot of this stuff is based on relationships. Knowing the right person, and that person never don't want to see you get to the next level.
Do you feel like possibly with your career in law enforcement and then going into film, do you think that because you blended the two at one point that you've been able to make the connections that you were able to make?
No, I think me going into film business, and because I was law enforcement, I think it brought a lot of negative heat on me.
I see.
I thought a lot of people don't want you to, like if you're a cop, they want you just to be a cop. A lot of people don't want to see you doing films. They don't want to see you doing real estate. Like a lot of people don't want to hear. I felt like the energy here is like, we don't support. Everybody says support, but we don't push each other. We don't try to help each other enough here. So I think that became a lot of bad heat on me to a degree, to the point where it was at that time that, I probably wouldn't have left at 20. I would have did my whole 25, but I got injured as well. But I was able to juggle both at one point. I was able to juggle 2 or 3 things at one time. But I felt like it was time for me to step away, or I was going to lose the job. I felt like I was going to lose being a cop, because it was just the movies that I was making. It was like, is this real? Is it fiction, or is it nonfiction? So it kind of brought a stigma, and to the degree where I know why my father said, don't put out that book until you retire. But I felt like if I was living for the police force and not trying to pursue something that I felt like I was good at, then nothing would happen. That's like when you write a book. Everybody has an opinion on your book, but if I was writing for y'all, that book would never get published.
Yeah.
So I had to step out on faith. I had to step out on what was right for Alonzo at the time, and this risk. I had a son. I have a son at a young age, who relies on me. So am I going to step out here and risk losing my pension, which brings in the bread every 2 weeks, or I'm going to step out and take this gamble and see if I can make it in a whole nother world that I'm just learning?
Yeah, well, I mean, bravo to you for actually, having a vision and then trying to apply that and then making something out of yourself. And, I think you could also be an example for people in the sense that, I know a lot of people that when they ask me like, oh, how do you get into podcasting? Like, how do you do it? How do I start this, that, and the third? I mean, at the end of the day, you can't wait for everything to just be perfect. Like I tell this story all the time where the first episode I ever recorded was in my bedroom closet because it was soundproof.
Yeah.
And now we're in a studio, in a professional studio recording this thing. But the point in that story is that I had to start somewhere or else it was never going to get done. So there may be people out there that want to direct or write or produce or act or whatever, but they feel like they have to wait for all the right pieces to fall in place and hope by faith and by luck that it'll just happen by chance. But no, you got to make it happen yourself. And, it starts off with, auditions. It starts out with classes. It starts out with doing a self-tape, all of those things. And, these are the things that people don't, they either want to cut corners or they've never really been taught these things as well, like either they want to cut corners or, nobody has been able to teach them, and then it's up to people like you and everybody else in your circle, in your industry, to bring that awareness out. And, like, this is how you do it. And, and also, not everything is going to be an overnight success. True. I mean, I know somebody that, I'm not going to mention his name, but he knows who he is if he watches this episode. He had a fantastic film. I love this film. And it was in a couple of festivals and everything like that. You would think that as, he would get the ball rolling on projects, but, life be lifing sometimes. He has to do other things. He's doing freelance and all the other stuff. So it's the point that I'm getting at is that just, success is not going to happen overnight. And don't focus too much on the success and focus on the journey, and then afterwards the success will come along its way.
Yeah, and that's with anything. Like, when you focus on the wrong thing, just focus on what you're going to get out of it, then you're never going to get it because you just, that was your game, your end goal, not of getting the project done.
Right.
Not being into the work and you learned something else. You learned a mistake not to make again. So, those are the things that people just like what you were saying earlier, like basically you have to believe in yourself first. And once you believe in yourself first, you got to push yourself because how you going to expect somebody else to believe in you and you don't even believe in yourself? And you don't, like a lot of people come to me and say, oh, I got this script or I got this story I want to do. You want to invest? And I'm like, what are you putting into it? Or how are you going to pay me back my money? And they like, oh, I'm gonna shop at the Netflix. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm like, listen, I got 11 projects, 10 projects, ain't none of them on Netflix. It ain't that easy. It's not that easy, and that's the one thing you don't want to do. And that's one thing I never wanted to do was take somebody else's money and come back and say I'm sorry. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, nobody wants to be discouraged.
Or I could take it if you took my money, you took the investment, and you dot every I and cross your T. You try, really try. Because I do things that I know other directors and producers don't do. I'm up at night. I'm through IG. I'm writing down emails. I write down different stuff. I email different people. I reach out. I tag and all that other stuff. I do extensive research, and that's how I was able to build up some of the context that I had made. It was like I had to reach out, contact information for this person, and you might gotta go through a couple of links, and boom, an email might pop up, a phone number might pop up.
Right.
So, a lot of people just don't do that. Sometimes when you really just want to get to the next level, you got to be willing to do whatever it takes.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that I also like about filmmaking in general is that just being able to be a storyteller and then you base it on real life experiences sometimes. Like you said that you have a background in martial arts, and I'm pretty sure that was a huge inspiration to The Chosen One.
Oh, The Fearless One.
The Fearless One. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Fearless One.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't want to get, as a filmmaker, I didn't want that stigma or get stuck and say, oh, he only good for making an urban hood story. So, there was a time after King in Newark, I branched off in The Fearless One, and then I started doing faith-based movies. Then I wanted to do a suspense thriller and a comedy. I wanted to do all different types of movies so that way I could say I touched on every drama and be able to say, this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love when filmmakers in general do things like that. Like, the best example that I can give you is Francis Ford Coppola. So Francis Ford Coppola has made some of the greatest movies of all time, like The Godfather 1 and 2, obviously, and also Part 3, but 1 and 2 are the ones that are known as classics. Apocalypse Now, a whole bunch of other ones. And then he'll do something that is universally panned, like Jack with Robin Williams. But the point is that just because he did he was successful in making The Godfather, he didn't want to be put in a box as just making gangster films for the rest of his career. You know, he wanted to do outside of it. You know, same thing with Steven Spielberg. I mean, he's been able to do comedy, sci-fi, action, drama, the whole nine. Like if he puts his mind to it, doesn't matter what the genre is.
You got to step out of your comfort zone.
Exactly,
you know?
and that's why I love that you stepped out of your comfort zone to show that you don't want to put yourself in just, you know, a category of just making hood movies, especially considering your background, you know. And I just wish, and this is not to put anybody down, but I wish that there were more people that would take that approach, because I feel like that just hinders them in their creative process. Because I know a lot of people that are from Patterson, Newark, any other hood, but they just only focus on, you know, they see something like Power on Stars, and that's all they want to do.
And that's all they want to do.
That's all they want to do.
You know, everybody, and I said it. That's why. And there's nothing wrong with doing those stories, because it's all about how you tell your story. But the movies that I'm seeing is like, so when the movie come on, somebody's getting shot. You don't know why he got shot. Everybody's a drug kingpin. You don't know how you got the story, the art of storytelling is very important.
Where's the character development? Yeah,
this character development. You know, what made that person, because the audience, you know, somebody had to tell me, you are writing for the audience. Either the audience going to love him or they're going to hate him. Is he going to be the hero or is he going to be the villain? And that's when I started writing certain things, I had to, you know, why this person said that to that person. And then this is the way he reacted, and this is the way why he died, or wherever he moved on to. You have to connect those dots. You have to connect those dots.
When it comes to the King of Newark trilogy, when you wrote those films, especially the first one, did you always have your character in mind from the beginning, or was this something that you felt like, you know what, I feel like I'm the only one that could tell this character's story after all? No.
So the whole thing, even with me, like I wasn't you know, when I wrote Living with No Regrets, because that's the first story.
Right.
That's Malcolm's younger years. And like I said, not, you know, as getting into the film business, not knowing that there's going to be a sequel or trilogy to anything. I'm just writing, thinking this was an accomplishment, one and done. And so when I wrote like Malcolm's character, I was, you know, I wrote Malcolm's life around my life story, but I just, you know, when we was casting, I couldn't find out, you know, like, you know, I didn't see nobody that stuck out to play that character. So somebody said to me, "Why don't you try it?" And I wanted to try it, and like I said, I started acting. I started liking it, but it became it's a lot. It's a lot when you acting and producing.
You're already wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, you're responsible for call time, locations, food, you know. So, and then, you know, you're trying to get in the character, and somebody say something to you wrong or something happen, it throws you out of character. So it's a lot. But this, especially this one, that's why this one, because I took on a director role at this time. Now I'm a director, producer, and you know,
and starring in it.
Yeah, and starring in it, I carried a lot. That's why I had to bring on another producer, you know, who was with me from the beginning, Malik Barrett, you know, and he helped me, you know, get the script together, the book. So I had to bring people on that I know that had the best interest of the project with no hidden agenda. Right. Because that's the thing. You got a lot of people that want to help you, but they got hidden agendas. We all should have agenda, but the hidden ones is what you got to be careful with.
Absolutely. Know? So to anybody out there that's watching and listening to this episode right now, that they're inspired to do something passionate with their life, but they have to go through discouragement, judgment, fear, whatever the case may be, and then they see somebody like you that's been able to accomplish what you've accomplished so far. What would you say to those people that are listening and watching right now?
I'm going to say, if you believe in yourself, push yourself. Don't let no one discourage you. From your parents, your brothers, your siblings, to your friends, and even if relationships. If you really feel it in your core, then try it. Only you can walk away and say, hey, I tried it. I didn't accomplish it. Or you're going to say, I could pat myself on the back and say I did it. Because one thing I told myself very young, at a young age, I said, I'm not going to be them guys, and I'm sure you heard this. I could have, I would have, or I should have had done it. I don't want to hear nobody, it's like when I talk to people who went to jail. I had $1 million. I had this, but you got nothing to show for it. Mm-hmm. You don't even have a T-shirt to say, I bought this T-shirt when I was a millionaire. No, I refuse to be around that, and I refuse to let anyone discourage me, because a lot of people discourage me. Oh, you ain't no actor. Your movies ain't gonna go nowhere. Nobody's gonna read that book. But I still kept pushing because I believed in myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, words of a true king right there. Round of applause real quick, Najee. Thank you very much. So we're about to get into one more segment before we close out, but you came here for a reason. King of Newark 3, it's about to come out April 10th, the premiere, April 11th as well. Yes. Why don't you go ahead and plug it real quick for the audience? Plug it. I want you to plug it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. King of Newark 3 is coming out. It's been waiting for a long time. A lot of people have been asking me since King 2, which we done in 2019, 2018, and they be asking, what's next? What's up with Malcolm? What's going on? And I waited. I went to do some other projects because I wanted to do this right. I really wanted to do this right, and I wanted the budget to be right. I wanted the storyline to be right, because the whole point about King 3 was basically to open up a bigger door. Everybody's talking about they want that Newark wire to come, and I want to be able to bring it. I want the world to see what Newark really has to offer. That we the next power. That we can spin off on these characters and create their own segment. So King 3 is dropping next week, Thursday, red carpet, 2 showings, 7 to 9 both days. And we need everybody to come out. We need the support. We need Jersey. I don't just say Jersey. I said the tri-state area. We need everybody in the tri-state area, because it was the tri-state area that helped make this film.
Absolutely.
It was New York. We had people from Philly, Connecticut. People flew in from Atlanta, Detroit. Everybody came in to be a part of this project, and we just want to make it and take it to the next level, and to keep opening up doors for others. So I'm asking each and everyone to come out and support.
Yeah, and dude, you got some real legends in this film. You got Eric Roberts, you got Fredro Starr, not just from this film, but also from the other films as well. Yeah. Just so, kudos to you landing those people that are legends in a lot of people's eyes, especially in my circles. So that's an accomplishment right there. So proud of you. Congratulations on all that. And, I'm also, I want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to be a part of the process in your filmmaking journey.
And that's all we want. That's all I want to do. Keep giving opportunities. But I want us all to push collectively.
Yes.
Unify some things.
Yeah, one of the things that I always say, and I will say it still to this day till I'm blue in the face, it's not about competition. It's about collaboration.
Absolutely.
I always say that in this podcast world, movie world, whatever the case may be, that's what I'm always saying. And I just wish people had that same mindset. You're never going to see me be a competitor. You're always going to see me as a collaborator. Mm-hmm. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, like I promised you, everybody's favorite segment, here we go. This is called This or That. If you've never seen the show before, what happens is I will ask my guests here multiple choice questions. It's also kind of inspired off of Black Sheep. You can get with this, you can get with that. There's no right or wrong answers. I just give you the question, and then you just choose whatever you like best, and then we just go from there, and then that'll put a cap on this episode. And now I got to find my notes because I am not fully prepared. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And okay, here we go. I think I got it. Okay, here we go. And are you ready, Najee? Are you ready, Alonzo?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go for This or That. You, Mr. Herran. Playlist or podcast?
Playlist.
Slides or Crocs?
I like Crocs.
Okay, like I said, no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity for the people to get to know you more. Beach or pool?
Pool.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early.
Okay. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
To give or to receive?
Give.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Good question. I would say introvert.
Okay. Batman or Superman?
Superman.
Iron Man or Captain America?
Iron Man.
Are you glass half empty or glass half full?
Half empty.
Would you rather be embarrassed or be afraid?
Embarrassed.
Would you rather be too hot or be too cold?
Too hot.
All right. Would you rather do dishes or do laundry?
Dishes.
Do you prefer the window seat or the aisle seat?
Aisle.
Are you book smart or street smart?
Street.
Do you prefer reading or writing?
Writing.
Would you rather speak every language or play every instrument?
Play every instrument.
Cardio or weights?
Cardio.
Dancing or karaoke?
Karaoke.
Drama or comedy?
Drama.
Steven Spielberg or James Cameron?
Spielberg.
Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino?
Tarantino.
Ice water or room temperature?
Room temperature.
And then finally, teamwork or solo project?
Teamwork.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. That is going to do it for this or that. Thank you so much to my guest, Alonzo Herran, for coming through, man. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to really quick before we close out?
Like I said, I want to give a shout out to the whole cast and crew, anybody that dealt with or had anything to do with King of Newark 3. I thank you. I'm humbly grateful. And I look forward to everybody coming out with us so we can enjoy this night together next week.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will put the description in the link so you can buy tickets in the description, and also I'm going to have it on social media at I am Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't also forget to check out to watch the entire story. You could also check out King of Newark 1 and 2 on Tubi.
Yes,
also the other ones
absolutely.
that you have as well.
Yes.
So you can catch up on the story. It'll be a nice little segue into King of Newark 3 when you join us at the premiere. Again, bro, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you coming on. And where can they find you on social media real quick?
H Royal Family on Instagram and Royal Family Films on Facebook.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through. I will see you next week at the premiere. Can't wait to see everybody there. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at I am Jason Enrique on all social media platforms. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube at Jason Enrique. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. This has been the First Class, Second Place podcast. We out.